Good morning and welcome to my favorite podcast of the week, Teach Me Bees. I'm Dave Wescott, your host, and I've got Scott the beekeeper with me here today. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning. How you doing today?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic, especially, you know that I had to bring this up.
What are you talking about?
You know what I'm going to bring up, right? You know what's going to happen here.
Y'all can fast forward this part.
where you know what's going to talk about here. Do you know what's coming?
Yeah, I know what's coming.
I was texting
You
Dave
texted me
Lundquist,
after this. Yeah.
your father-in-law.
Yep. We're gonna get him on here soon, folks.
And I was texting with him, and I was saying, "Hey, are you texting Scott? Are you razzing Scott? Are you razzing your son-in-law? Are you giving your son-in-law a hard time right now?" And I can't remember what he responded. He responded back something nice.
Yeah, I think he was like, I need to give him a day or two.
Is that what he was thinking?
Yeah.
So Scott the beekeeper is a big Oregon Ducks fan.
To the day I die.
And the Ducks had a great season. I just want to congratulate them on being 11-2.
Yep, 6 stinking points separated us from the Huskies.
Great
6
season.
stinking points.
The Oregon Ducks did a great job.
Might have a Heisman winner still.
Might have a Heisman winner.
We'll see.
That's really exciting. And I just want to say that the Dogs kind of prevailed.
You know what? The Dogs played 4 quarters and we played 3. And typically, when you play 4, you win the game.
That's right. That's what happened.
You know,
now, the Huskies quarterback had like a broken rib or something, didn't he? Have some damaged ribs or something?
It was speculated that he had one. There hasn't been official reports, but most people think.
So he played hurt.
Yep.
He was damaged. They still were able to pull it out.
They ran the ball very, very well.
It was an exciting game.
It was. We actually came back and had a chance to win that thing.
You did have a chance. I mean, I was on my
You're on the edge of your seat.
Freaking edge of my seat, man.
If we would have completed it, that would have been a historic collapse by the Huskies.
I know, right? I was, to be honest with you, I was about to text Scott the beekeeper something nasty about his team losing when we were up by 10 with like 2 minutes to go. And then they scored that fast touchdown. Yep. And I was like, oh, I better hold on. Oh, they're going to do an onside kick. No.
Chill out. Yeah.
I was like, oh man.
You know what? It's an important lesson for everyone in life. Sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. And how do you bounce back? But Dan Lanning, you better get a dub next year. I'm telling you, if you lose the Huskies again, we're having problems.
He better get it organized. If we lose to the Huskies again, we're having. So college football is really exciting. I know we're talking about bees here on the Teach Me Bees, but FSU gets cheated out of a bowl game or the playoff. I thought that was kind of bad.
I didn't.
You're on the side
They played Alabama. Alabama wins by 30 points right now. It's not close. Absolutely. I don't think they score a single offensive touchdown.
What about if Oregon plays Alabama?
That one's a coin flip. I don't know. They're really good. I think we're really good. Here's the deal. You take out Bo Nix, our Heisman level quarterback, our starting quarterback, we would absolutely lose Alabama. That's what happened to Florida State. Our quarterback got hurt 2 weeks ago. You're going to lose. Sorry, you're not the 4th best team. Sorry. You're probably not even the 5th, 6th, or 7th.
What about how they persevered?
It's a good job. Good job. Come back again next year.
What about that little beehive that's sitting out in your lot that loses a queen right before winter?
Well,
and you put in a new queen.
You wouldn't put in a new queen right before winter. I don't think that would merge well. You'd want to merge it with an established hive.
All winter long?
No, the drones are already gone and dead, which is another reason you wouldn't put a queen in there, because she has to take her virgin flight just to mate, and then she can begin laying brood, which typically doesn't happen much, if at all, in the winter. And so you would want to merge that hive with an established hive.
So you want to merge that hive with a different hive. So what you're saying is, what's the name of your Heisman level quarterback?
Bo Nix.
Bo Nix. I'm going to write that down. That's like just cool name.
Yeah, remember that. He's going to NFL.
Nix. That's a cool name. When he goes to what's your favorite NFL team?
Probably the Hawks by default.
By the Hawks?
Yeah.
So what if Bo Nix goes to the 49ers? He's not going to go to the 49ers, but if he did?
I mean, I would like him less, but still like him. Yeah, he's a really good quarterback. He's a really good person, too. Though. Yeah, we might need a QB.
Geno,
unless you put it together at the end of the year, you might lose your job.
Yeah, Gino kind of
It's
had
not good for any of my fantasy teams. If anyone
Gino
out
had
there's
a
playing.
tough run. So we just learned a little bit about bees.
Yep.
So if you have a bee hive that's struggling at this time of year, and the hive and the queen dies, or they kill her, or whatever happens in the hive. Weak queen,
or
whatever happens.
Queens die for a variety of reasons. We don't
You're
know
going to
them all.
merge the two hives.
Yep.
Talk to us. How do we merge two hives?
Well, let's just take, we'll call them hive 1 and hive 2 here. Hive 1 is the strong one that's doing fine, has its queen. Hive 2 lost its queen. Okay. Hive 2, what you're going to do is you're going to take the bottom box that's going to have most of the bees in it. You may even take the second box depending on how big this hive is. And you will put it on top of the other hive, but you're going to put newspaper in between the hive, in between each hive, so that they get used to the pheromone scent of the queen. You could also do that if a queen was still alive, and they would get used to the scent, and then one of the queens would just get killed. But assuming the queen's already dead, you would then put newspaper in, and they would eat their way through. Then they would be able to get to their queen, take commands from their queen, etc. And then you would be able to take some boxes off, depending on how large the hive is, because you always need. It's a fine balance where you need enough room for the bees to thrive and to have growth, but not too much room that they can't control their hive. Because if they can't patrol the hive, if there's too many bees and there's too much space, too few bees and too much space, then other things could get in it, such as yellow jackets could be camping out. A mouse at this time of year would be looking for a hive to get out from the cold, and they could potentially hide from the bees. The bees just wouldn't be able to patrol, whether it's the top end of a box or the bottom, or probably would be the bottom, and typically the bees would rise a little bit because heat rises, and so the bees would rise up to the second box or maybe the third box. But typically, at least if it were around this time of year, you wouldn't have more than 2 boxes in there.
Wow.
Just for population.
That's really good information. I think that's I learned something. That's why we've got Scott the beekeeper. This is why he does what he does. So I just look pretty. He keeps the bees. This is the relationship that we have. We understand our boundaries. So Bo Nix wouldn't go and pitch in at Florida.
Florida State?
Yeah.
Oh no, his eligibility's done. He's going to the pros.
I know. We're gonna get all serious about it. We're gonna get the tech.
Nah.
Are you a fact checker?
Depends on the facts.
Will you hear somebody say something? Will you get on Google and decide whether that's real or false?
Sometimes, yeah. Like there's some people in the world, I won't put anyone on blast right now, that are far more famous than me. If they say something, I'm instantly suspicious. It's like, the last 10 things you said were false. This is probably also false. But occasionally, everyone says something truthful.
I can think of some older gentlemen that talk like that.
Yep.
Listen, yep. I'm gonna keep it real here. So we're talking about football. The Ducks lost. Are the Ducks got a bowl game?
We are playing in the Fiesta Bowl. Yep.
The Fiesta Bowl. Where is that?
That's like one of the top 6 bowls.
Oh, it's one of the top 6 bowls. So it's still a pretty important bowl. Who are you playing?
Liberty University.
And where are they at?
They're from Virginia.
How did they get into a bowl?
They went undefeated and were the G5 or Group 5 champion. So how it works is the Power 5 conferences, which is now Power 4, rest in peace Pac-12, automatically get bids into the big bowls.
Okay.
The G5, which is like the best of the rest, their champ, whoever it is, if they're highly ranked enough, gets an automatic bid into one of those said bowls.
And so Oregon's going to win, lose?
We should beat the absolute snot out of them.
All right, that's good. So we got to ask this question. We got to talk about it. Ralph, you can chime in. Ralph's laughing in the background. He's having a good time.
That's true.
Bowl Saturday, right? This happens on New Year's Day.
A lot of games happen. Ours is on New Year's Day.
Okay,
yeah.
so New Year's Day
playoff, which we
got bowl games on New Year's Day.
Yep.
Honey for Hope, Teach Me Bees. Are you going to make any dish? Are you going to eat any dish? Are you going to have any dish present that has to do with honey?
I mean, potentially. So the thing is, the Ducks play at 10 a.m. Pacific time on New Year's Day. So not sleeping in crazy that day, getting up. I'm a game food kind of guy. I love some wings. I love, chips and dip, some artichoke dip, maybe some bean dip, whatever. Salsa is a great one. Honey, though, if you get a nice, if you can get a spicy honey, like a jalapeno infused honey, that's really good. Whether it's dipping crackers in or you just put it on a slice of bread. Or even just honey that we produce here at Honey for Hope. I have still some of my jar from earlier in the year.
I ate my whole jar.
Yeah.
I ate it raw by the scoop.
In one sitting.
No. That would jack a player up.
But yeah, so like I enjoy a nice piece of toast with honey on it, like in the morning.
Tried that before.
With my cup of coffee. Like that's a great start to the day.
Okay, so here's the challenge, because this is all about Teach Me Bees, and bees produce honey, and we love honey that comes from bees.
Yes.
So the show before
the bowl games.
Mm-hmm. We are going to provide 3 to 5 recipes, maybe less. 3 to 5 might have been a big shot. We're gonna provide.
You're gonna get at least one.
We're gonna provide 1 to 5 recipes that are
good range,
a derivative of honey,
specifically for your enjoyment of the football games,
honey, so that you can prepare.
Yep.
For the bowl games and support the bees and support the local beekeepers. Because remember, the fact that we heard a couple of weeks back was that 90% of all honey produced comes from beekeepers. Something like that.
I think you mean 90% of all hives or honeybees are
kept by beekeepers. Yes, correction. That's right. Correct. You're correct. You are.
So sometimes you got to correct people.
He just fact checked me. It's
like a whole career.
I feel like this guy works for CNN.
I don't know about that.
No. Fox News?
No. I don't enjoy either.
Newsmax?
No. If I enjoy any news, it's the BBC because it's not from the U.S.
Facebook?
That's the most toxic place ever.
Interesting. All right. That's a whole topic that we're not going to go into today, but we're going to have some fun with it. I actually appreciate my news from Facebook. I'm just going to say that everything on Facebook, everything on Facebook is true. Okay. That's actually a complete lie. Don't fact check that. Facebook is a horrible place for news. I made that whole segment up. Do not get your news on Facebook. Listen, that is very dangerous. Get your news wherever you prefer to listen to your news at. But we are going to provide some cool recipes and some cool things that you can do with honey for the bowl games. I think that's good for bees, especially in the winter. What do you think?
That's great. We're going to do that. Stay tuned for that one.
All right, so that's going to be exciting. But today, what we're really here to talk about, and we're really is starting out as a beekeeper. Like, what do you need to be a good beekeeper? How do you get rolling in this thing? And I guess the first thing you need is a bee suit, right?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely need one. Is it the first thing you should do or buy? I don't know if I'd say it's the first thing. You should first, if it's something you're interested in, becoming a beekeeper. And I'm just going to assume a backyard beekeeper for this. If you want to grow into something more, then you can definitely expand it. Watch some YouTube videos on beekeeping and bees. Attend some beekeeping classes. Find a beginner class in your state. In Western Washington, where we are, there's several associations that have different classes. So I would, before you purchase anything, I would say join those classes, read a little bit. Wait a minute,
you're just not going to walk around in a bee suit?
I mean, anyone could buy a bee suit and just walk around town, like you could do that.
Hey, I'm an alien. I'm in a bee suit. It reminds me of Back to the Future when, have you seen Back to the Future?
It's been a long time.
Okay, so this isn't up there with The Lion King.
No. It was not something I watched when it first came out,
Ralph.
Yes, Dave.
How wonderful is Back to the Future?
The Back to the Future trilogy is one of the perfect trilogies of all time. It's a great movie series. I love it.
I love Back to the Future. I mean, doesn't everybody want that Tonka truck?
Heck yeah.
And listen, he's like walking around in a life jacket. I mean, but it's not a life jacket. It's a vest like Ralph's wearing right now.
Yes.
Hey, why are you wearing a life preserver? Goldie Wilson for mayor. I'm going way back.
Is that how you got from Bee Suit to Back to the Future?
No.
Oh.
There's this awesome part where Marty, who is the lead character, played by one of my favorite actors of all time, Michael J. Fox, he's at the mall, and the Libyans, right? The Libyans come down and they shoot Doc. He thinks Doc is dead because Doc stole a bunch of plutonium, and that's how he fuels his car, the DeLorean, and that's what happens. And so Marty hops in the car, he closes the lid, he gets it up, boom, it gets to 88 miles per hour. The flex capacitor is blinging like crazy, and wham, all of a sudden he's in the middle of a field driving in a barn, and he crashes into a barn, and he's got this yellow plutonium suit on him that keeps the radiation down, and he gets out of the car, and he's standing there, and the hood flies down, and this farm family opens the door, and the kid's like, aliens, extraterrestrials, and then they take a 12-gauge shotgun and they fire bullets at him, and the kid has this comic book, and he goes, look, Pa. And it's almost the exact same looking guy with the DeLorean right there. And then Marty runs off, gets in the car, drives off, I don't know, hides the car somewhere else. And so it's like this cool moment because Marty's outfit, if it was white, would almost resemble a beekeeping outfit. Ralph, what did I miss?
You got the Cliff's Notes there of the first few minutes of the movie, or the first 15 minutes of the
Did I
movie.
actually tell it pretty well, or what?
Yeah, you did. It was actually great.
It's actually surprising how well that came back to me, to be perfectly honest. I felt like
It's
I was
a movie hater here.
I feel like we should get together and watch it sometime afterwards in the next few days and just look to see how good you did, because that was pretty impressive.
Did you just? Yeah, I agree. Did you just call me a movie hater?
Yeah, I mean, you openly admitted to going to the theater and taking a nap in the theater while watching the movie. So,
okay, what movie was that in?
I don't know. You went with your kids. You're like, "There's my 2-hour nap."
Yes, exactly. With my kids to watch a stupid cartoon. I don't watch no cartoons.
I don't know, man. I don't know, dude. The cartoons are pretty good. The Bee movie's a cartoon, by the way.
You know what? We're going to leave it there. We're just going to say that some of us of a particular generation don't watch cartoons.
And some of us do. Let's go,
Others
millennials.
of a younger generation watch cartoons. I still, to this day, and cannot find. I don't like any cartoon. I don't like cartoons. Okay, there we go. So listen, you're watching this whole thing happen. What in the world are we talking about? We're talking about the bee suit. So
Yeah,
getting into the bee
bee suit,
suit.
yeah.
So here's the thing. This is what I was actually going to say. Like, you're just freshly married and you're thinking about spicing things up. Would you go
In a
naked
bee suit?
in a bee suit?
I don't
Hey,
think
baby, you want some honey?
I don't think I would be in a bee suit.
No,
You know?
you're not saying, "Hey, baby, bring me the honey."
No, I'm not.
No, that's not happening. But look at Scott;
No,
he's smiling.
It's a way to
He's
get
got a
stung,
smile,
for sure.
and he's turned slightly red. He's like, "Dude, did we just talk about getting naked in a bee suit?"
Man,
You
I
got
just have the fear, like if you think got stung.
stung naked.
Yeah.
That's hot.
Mm.
A little pain in love. A little pain feels good.
Yeah,
I'm
so you're
just-
gonna
I'm
want
just
you're,
joking.
you will want to buy a bee suit when you get started.
Okay, so we're gonna. So
But
you do now we want.
watch-
I convinced him through the power of uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
If that's a word that we're gonna get, we're gonna just buy the bee suit and quit talking about it.
Watch some YouTube though, and seriously learn a little bit before you commit to buying stuff. Just a word of caution and wisdom, I'd say.
Yeah, bee suit's cool. You gotta have a bee suit.
You need a bee suit. You also might want to have gloves that may or may not come with your bee suit. I'd recommend it at least initially. And some bee suits are full bee suits. Some are just like half upper body. I would get a full one. And then you can also make sure it comes with like a head covering.
Yep. Head covering's important.
Some are really thick and some are pretty good in ventilation. So just weigh your options and how much you want to spend.
And then you want a smoker.
You are gonna want a smoker. That just helps calm
Now,
the
what kind of
bees.
pipe is that?
A big one.
Really? So you're taking the big hookah out there and you're lining it
Firing
up with
it
the
up.
cannabis and
This is Washington, I guess you could. But
do you think that beekeepers smoke weed or that they don't smoke weed?
you know what? I'm not sure.
Would you smoke weed before you got into the beehive?
No.
Would be interesting to see what it does to the pheromones of the bees, how they react.
I would.
Yeah,
You know
that's an
what?
interesting experiment.
This is an experiment. This is an experiment. We will literally.
Next week on
Maybe-
Teach Me Bees.
Maybe they've actually done that at Washington State University. Who knows?
They may have done that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get a big bong. We're gonna get a 5-foot bong.
Did you
And
say
then-
bomb or bong? It sounded
me
like
be
a
clear.
bomb.
Bong. And we are going to take a big bong rip and have a whole bunch of smoke, and then we're going to blow that smoke into the beehive, and we are going to see how the bees react.
Okay.
Scott's like, actually, I don't know about that. I'm just kind of like, I don't know what this is going on here. We're talking about bee suits. We're talking about
You want to get a smoker?
being dressed up naked in a bee suit. We're talking about
while taking bong hits.
and maybe you make a little bee sound while you're running around in the bee suit.
Buzz, buzz.
I'm gonna sting you. Did that just get too crazy? I'm gonna sting you. I'm gonna find you. Have you seen that movie Wedding Crashers, where he's like, where he's with the the red-haired chick, and they go out on the beach and they do their thing, and she says something like, "That's good. Don't leave, because I would find you." And it's like super creepy. Nobody's feeling me on Wedding Crashers.
I mean, I've seen it, but
It's a classic.
yeah.
Is Wedding Crashers hilarious or what?
It is very funny at times. At times, yes.
There you go. Leave it right there. At times.
Mom, spaghetti now. By the way, spaghetti comes from bees.
Fact check us.
70% of all food comes from bees. Right?
Yeah.
70% of what's on our plate is a
Probably-
derivative of some kind of pollination, which comes from some kind of bee.
Most likely, I think the best thing we could point to is about 1/3 of every bite you eat directly trace back to pollination from honeybees.
Right. So, the smoker. So, listen, we're not actually going to smoke weed into the beehive, just so you know, for all of those of you who may be worried about the condition of the bees today.
Don't report us.
That is not going to happen. We are not going to put weed smoke in there. Unless a PhD were to get on the phone and say, yes, it's very calming, as a matter of fact. And at that particular moment, we may try it. I'll take the bong hit if you don't want to.
So you need to get a smoker. That obviously to smoke.
So what kind of
out
like
the
a
hives.
trigger?
No, there's one up here behind us. For those listening, it's going to be difficult for you to visualize what we're talking about.
Should we grab it?
But you just Google a beehive smoker and it'll come up, and it's got a nozzle at the top that the smoke comes out of, and there's like a little bag that you squeeze,
And
that
it just pumps the smoke in.
just pumps air in to get the little fire going and smoke out. And you can put pellets in there, or you can just put like pieces of wood.
It's actually very
and,
cool.
that calms the bees, and it kind of gets them to come into the hive and be a little more docile because they're trying to retreat from the smoke, and it's a little bit calming. Also, I've heard it replicates potentially a forest fire, which causes the bees to come back to their hive and try and get away from the fire and stuff.
You
So
actually know a lot
it's
about
a calming
bees.
thing. I mean, kind of. I've learned a lot.
You actually have learned a lot. You're actually very well spoken when it comes to bees.
Thank you.
Good job.
You are also going to want to get the handy dandy hive tool, which we have one up here on the shelf as well, by these mics, if you can see it. And essentially, it looks kind of like a crowbar in a sense, but it's flat, and it has a square edge on it, and that allows you to pry open the boxes. And if you have two boxes, get in between and to pull them up or the lid to pull it up. And then there's a curve on it that allows you to scoop up the frames. That's probably going to be aside from the suit you're wearing, that hive tool is the most important thing that you need. And they're pretty cheap. So that's pretty cost effective.
So we got a bee suit, hive tool, smoker, lighter and pellets for the smoker, and a frame grabber. These are kind of the key things to get started in the bee business.
Yep, to be literally in the hives with. Those are the
to
tools
be in the hives with. These are
need.
the supplies that you would be needing.
Yep.
Boxes. When it comes to boxes, you want to have a hive stand to keep them off the ground.
100%.
Right? This is important.
Yep. You don't want, if you put them on the ground, you're basically inviting any animal to come in and check it out. Whether it's a mouse, other rodents.
Yeah, you want it off the ground for sure. I agree with this. And here's another lesson that I learned in initially having bees. This was actually a big deal. Was, we just put the hive stands right into the grass. I felt like this was an issue because when you're trying to trim the grass or you're trying to weed whack, it's like you got to weed whack around the hive, and then the bees are coming out and you're trying to work around them. Or if you have a landscaper or if anybody's doing that, like they get very freaked out of the bees and the hives. So then they don't trim and do the yard work around the beehives. So I kind of think that if you're just, backyard beekeeping and you're just doing, 1 or 2 hives, I'm a believer in just, take some nice crushed rock, lay it out, compact it, set your hive stand on top, and then take a nice pressure treated lumber and build a border around it so that it's just a nice protected, clean area to set the hive. And I like that too, because one of the things that happens with the hive is you can actually see like are ants getting into the hive or other wasps on the hive, how many bees have died around the hive, is something going on. Like I think just a peripheral check of the hive is good, especially when you're a beginning beekeeper, because like you don't know, and it's like, oh man, why are these bees dying? What's going on? And there could be something going on, or it could just be the natural evolution of the hive. But I think just really having a clean space to work in, I think that just makes me feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So that was something that I just learned. Bottom board. So screen board at the bottom, floor of the hive has an entrance screen for ventilation. This is also a best practice, and this also helps with varroa mites, right?
It does. Yep. Screen boards. So kind of on the bottom, underneath your hive box, you have a screened board, or a non-screened. It's just a bottom board. It's up to you. But the screen board allows you to kind of see in a sense, see into the hive and provides more ventilation and allows you to. What it does is, if there are varroa mites, which almost every hive is going to have varroa mites to some extent, they'll drop and then not be able to get back into the hive, and you'll be able to see them on that screened board.
Yeah, that's awesome, because you got to protect against those things. And, here's an invitation to anybody listening who wants to check out some hives. Feel free to reach out to us. And, when we're not opening them up in the wintertime because we need to protect against moisture. But if you'd like to check out our hives, we're happy to give you a tour of what we're doing, and you can see how we get in that if you're a little bit nervous of what that looks like. So take us through the next couple of bullet points. What do we got here?
Yeah, so the important things to know is we mentioned hives and boxes. Typically, you're going to use a Langstroth hive, which is the square-ish or rectangle boxes that you see. There are other elongated hives, but we're not really going to go into those.
A lot of times they're painted white.
Yes, they are typically painted white.
Is there a reason for that, or is it just...
yes. Yeah, one, I think it looks good. It's cleaner, but two, I think it helps the bees. Like, if it were darker in the summer, the heat could become too much, could become overwhelming in a sense. And so it allows the heat not to penetrate too much. Because it's easier to maybe put on an insulation in the winter than it is to like change the color of the box or something along those lines.
So in here you mentioned mediums or deeps. What's the difference between a medium or a deep?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
And depending on what you're doing will depend on what you use.
Let's just say I want to have one beehive in my backyard. I want to make enough honey to put it on my toast and enjoy it with a cup of coffee. I'm a hobby beeist. I want to get my kids into bees.
You're probably going to want a couple deeps with a medium on top. So a deeps medium boxes are half the size of deeps.
Okay.
Depends on how much you want to lift and your capabilities, because a medium box full of honey will be roughly 40 pounds, where a deep box full of honey will be closer to 80 pounds. So it's more substantial.
80 pounds of honey. Now, for those starting out,
That's what the frames include. You know, like,
yeah,
you
that's
know.
the whole package. But for those of us getting involved in beekeeping for the very first time, if let's say there's 80 pounds of honey in there, or 70 pounds of honey and 10 pounds of box and so forth, for our own pleasure, or would we want to leave some in?
You know, kind of depends on how strong the hive is. Typically, the bottom box you would never want to touch. As far as like extracting honey, like you can definitely touch it and go in there.
And why wouldn't you want to touch that? That's because
that's where they make a lot of the brood is most of the time.
Their brood, yeah.
And so one, there's probably not going to be as much honey in there. And if there is, that's their food. You need to leave that alone.
Yeah.
The second box,
they eat their own food. They eat honey to survive.
Yeah. The honey is something that they
which
eat.
is very unique amongst bees.
Yeah. And so the second box, that's where they're going to have more stores of honey. So really the first box, if I were to break it in percentage, I don't know, maybe 3/4, 75% is going to be brood, 25% honey. Depends on if you put in a feeder into that bottom box as well, like what we do with our hives, so we can feed sugar water. The second box, that's going to be maybe 50-50 or leaning heavier into honey than it is brood, but they still will make brood in that box. And then kind of the general rule is anything above those two boxes is honey surplus, honey to be used. And so what you do is, if that's your goal, if you want to extract honey, which most people do, if you're a backyard beekeeper, you want the honey, etc. You put a queen excluder on top of the second box so that the queen cannot fly up and lay brood in those upper layers, the mediums or the deeps that you're using for the honey. And only the worker bees will go up there, and then they'll put honey in there.
True story.
Yep.
Guy has a suitcase. He's taking it to the dump. Falls off the back of his truck. Homeless guy picks it up. Puts his clothes in it. Totes it around. Has all sorts of other things in the suitcase. Abandons the suitcase at a rest stop. Bees get into the suitcase. Form a big, huge hive.
Mm-hmm.
Massive hive. The state parks people call the bee extractors. The bee person goes out, checks the bees to make sure that they're friendly, because as we know, killer bees look like honeybees, and so you got to be careful. Just making sure. So bee suit on. Smokes the bees to calm them down.
Mm-hmm.
Opens up the suitcase. Takes the bees out. And then takes the comb and attaches it to the frame with rubber bands. Then transports it back to their farm to have a hive that they've rescued. The question is, would you eat honey out of a homeless man's suitcase? And that's my question. That's all I'm saying.
It's a great question. Would you?
Oh, you know, the thing is, I'd like to say yes, but I mean, just being in the suitcase still freaks me out a little bit. I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you. It just makes me a little nervous.
Yeah, they probably didn't do that much in the suitcase.
Dude, this thing was massive. I mean, this thing, like, it's a red suitcase. Because I watched the video.
Like a luggage, like
yes.
Okay, that's like I was envisioning like a black, like a briefcase kind of.
No, this thing was a red suitcase. This was like okay. Do you remember the suitcases back in the day that used to open like this? Like, they open like a briefcase, but they're big and they're red and they're like, it's like maybe from the 70s or the 80s. This isn't like one of the ones that's got a fancy zipper and the wheels on it. Okay. This is like an old school suit, but it's big. Yeah. Would you eat the honey?
Yeah. Why not? because the bees have gone through it. I feel like it'd be fine.
All right.
But if it's got a little flavor to it, you know where it came from.
That's right.
So-
Take one bite and call it good.
Yeah, I'd taste test. Taste test. And let's see how it feels. So,
Okay.
yeah, getting back to the few things that you will need if you're starting out beekeeping. We mentioned the boxes, the bottom board, the stand. Frames is going to be a big thing. And typically, wherever you buy your box, you're also going to buy frames with your box. Generally, that's just going to how it arrives. And the frames are the things inside that the bees build their comb on. I have one here above my head if you're watching. It's right over there. If you're watching this.
Is there any way to buy frames that have supercharged comb or anything like that?
You can buy frames, and we've in fact done this a bit where we bought some frames that had comb already on it. So that's bees that have used it that for whatever reason it's just an excess.
This helps
frame.
them get going.
Yeah, and so it might be comb that's from like a honey surplus that we've mentioned that there's just extra comb that's filled out now, and so if you can get that, that's gonna be great for your bees because they don't have to build that; they're already gonna have that, and they can just begin with brood and honey production.
I got a question for you.
I can try and answer it.
If you have comb that's left over on a hive,
Okay.
and then you put that into your new hive in your frames, can varroa mites possibly be on that comb or in that comb?
In theory, I think potentially, but typically they hang around live bees. So not
there's
very
a
likely.
risk, but it's very unlikely.
Yeah, it's very minimal.
Okay, good call. So we got our outer cover lid. We got our queen excluder.
Yep.
Talk to us about that.
Well, I mentioned that when you put your second box to third or fourth, you put a queen excluder, which basically just this screen that doesn't allow the queen to fly up through it because the holes are small enough for regular worker bees, but too small for the queen to fly through because the queen's bigger than a worker bee. And so it just keeps the queen in the bottom two boxes to lay down there and not to lay brood up top.
I think that's a good tip.
Of course, you're going to want an inner cover
and
an outer cover. So an outer cover would be a lid that you put on it, which then would protect it from the rain, the elements, etc. Anything that wants to get in there. And an inner cover, it's a little bit of a barrier between the actual lid and the box of the hive itself. And that provides a little bit of ventilation as well and just security. And then depending on how many hives you have, and I would always recommend more than one, like have a couple, then it's always been recommended to me that you could then gauge the health of one off of the other. Like, okay, this one looks way different than that one. What's going on here? But if you only have one hive,
it gives
you may
you
not
a
know
benchmark.
That. It does.
You can start to benchmark your bees.
It. Yeah.
Okay, we got to bring this thing in for a landing. We don't want to get anybody sleepy out there. So listen, have a couple extra frames. You're going to spend about $1,000 on this.
I would
this
say,
gear, roughly.
probably
Go give or take,
depending on the quality of things you get.
I got two things really important that need to happen here. One, you mentioned earlier that for the Oregon Ducks game, because we're going to bring it back to where we started. So they're playing at like 10 o'clock in the Fiesta. Awesome. Look at the disappointment in his voice. Awesome. I hate this guy. So you're not sleeping in that day. So what is sleeping in for you? Do you sleep in past 10?
Not typically, unless I was up super late. No.
If you're up super late, you can.
Yeah, if I was up till like 2 or 3 a.m.
If you guys are running around in your bee suits, then
I guess so, yeah.
I'm just
typically,
I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself.
Typically, I'm in bed by like 10 p.m.
By like 10 p.m. Ralph, what about you? What is the latest you're sleeping in?
I think the latest I can ever sleep is around 7.
God.
My body just wakes up.
You know what? It sucks to get older, man.
It does.
I mean, I'm just gonna be honest with you
I can do 8 or 8:30.
When I was a kid, like I could sleep till 1 or 2 in the afternoon.
I could never. When I was a teenager, I like 10 or 11 was kind of my max.
My teenagers do now on weekends where there's nothing going on, and I'm like,
there's nothing going on because you're in bed.
I know. So like, there's this thing, right? So like, if I go to sleep in now, like, I mean, 9 o'clock is like, I mean, I've slept in so long. I'm just like, oh, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm ready to go get stung by a bee. And then I just want to mention on air,
Mhm.
that you owe me 2 lunches.
Yep. We went for it, and Ducks did not.
All right.
Not do their
Do
job.
we want to have any other further bets?
Not at this time.
Not at this time. So we're not doing any further bets. And listen, so we had a really fun call. That was great. Just tune in, check it out, because before the game day, New Year's Day, we're going to share some cool recipes that are all derivative of honey. We're going to work hard to find some cool, fun things
It's gonna be good.
that we can share with you about. And listen, I am hoping for the Oregon Ducks to really win big
Thank you. I
in the
appreciate
Fiesta
that.
Bowl. I am really hoping big for you in this whole thing.
I'm hoping our backups get in. We get to see what we got for next year. So
Okay, there we go. We're already preparing for next year.
that's
I
right.
love it.
We didn't make the playoff. It's all over. So.
We didn't make the playoffs.
Yep.
It's all over.
Thanks for joining
Okay.
us today, guys. Thanks for listening
Thanks
to the podcast.
for joining. Listen, follow us on YouTube. Follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Check us out. Check out what we're doing. We're having a lot of fun building the bee farm. This is Teach Me Bees. I'm Dave Wescott. This is your co-host, Scott the Beekeeper.
Hey-o.
We're just here having fun. And I hope that you enjoyed everything that we had to talk about today. And just a final tip, join a local association for classes if you're getting into bees. Watch YouTube videos for bees, I've heard is a great book to read. And try to learn and get into hives with someone who has more experience than yourself, and take us up on the offer. Come out and check out our bee farm, and we'd love to share with you about what we've got going on, because it's all about building a community of people who have fun, who help each other, and who learn from others' mistakes so that we can continue to pollinate the world. I'm Dave Wescott. See you later.